Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at Ask Adam Torres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply, become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special reunion 2020 episode. What is that? That's when I bring on a guest I had on the past, and I liked them so much I had to bring them right on back. So today's return guest is Parissa, who is CEO and a business spur over at 6 Sense Strategy. Parissa, welcome back to the show.
Hey, happy to be back. Thank you so much.
Oh, man. So when I saw your topic today, 3D leaders and what that means for businesses, I got excited because I know that's your specialty. But before we get into that, I do want to get a little bit more into what you're doing over at 6 Sense Strategy. I don't want to assume all our new listeners caught your first episode. So tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Absolutely. So essentially what I do is I offer executive and strategy coaching to C-suite and senior leaders in one of two cases. One is that they have an audacious goal that they would like to hit, or there's an iceberg up ahead that they would prefer not to hit. And the reason why they work with me for either the coaching or the strategy consulting services is they've either been in that seat or adjacent to that seat often enough to appreciate some of the complexity that they're dealing with and the decisions they have to make, but then also at the same time empathize with some of the fears or concerns they may be having because they bear the responsibility of running this company, this business unit, or what have you.
And I think that is a great transition. Let's just jump right into today's show topic. So 3D leaders, where do you want to begin?
Yes. Well, let me define what a 3D leader is, and then we can go from there. 3D leaders are what I call difficult, dismissive, and divisive. Some people say divisive. These are typically your high-performing, high-value leaders in your company, but sometimes they're behaviors or their inability to engage as well as you would like for them to engage starts to diminish their value such that they start to leave maybe bodies and maybe some collateral damage behind. And you're starting to see some of the trailing impacts of how they show up at work.
So I know this is going to change. This is going to change from person to person, where they're at in their career, all that good stuff. But what turns someone into a 3D leader?
You know, what happens, that's a really good question. It's a very thoughtful question. So a lot of my 3D leader clients are so mission driven, so focused on the goal, the eyes on the prize, all of that, that the result becomes so important that they forget some of the things that happen in their peripheral vision. So maybe they're increasing the number of new customers, or maybe they're retaining a higher number of customers, or they're finding new efficiencies, or whatever magic they're creating that is defined for them as a goal, either by the company or themselves, that they forget that there's no I team.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens?
It's almost like they have tunnel vision, right? It's almost like somehow tunnel vision may set in or something like that, and they don't see what's around them. Is it oversimplifying it? I'm just curious.
No, that's a good way to describe it. And other ways is that they are well intentioned. So some of my 3D leader clients, when something happens and let's say they blow their top, it's not like they don't recognize that they are in the middle of blowing their top. What they don't always have are the tools to stop that thing from happening. So they see it happening, then it's happening, and then afterwards they suffer from a tremendous amount of remorse, mainly because they don't want to blow their top. Mainly because they don't want to alienate people, mainly because they really do have good intentions. It's just they don't know how to recognize the triggers as they're happening to find a different way to engage or maybe find ways to course correct as they see the triggers happening for them.
How does coaching help 3D leaders?
It's a great question. So let's also jump back to talk about the cost of 3D leaders and why coaching actually matters, though, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that the annual cost of voluntary turnover is about $1 trillion. And we also know that people don't leave companies, they leave managers. And so that becomes incredibly expensive, and they leave bad managers. We also know that when we want to replace a key performer, it can be in excess of 200% of their salary. And so the reason why coaching matters in this context is coaching becomes your ounce of prevention versus your pound of cure, which is trying to replace someone or the cost of turnover, retaining a recruiter or what have you. And so the conversation with 3D leaders ends up being, let's examine the instances in which you were so focused on the results that the peripheral vision just wasn't there quite as well as you would like for it to have been there. So what level of awareness do we have as a leader? What level of engagement do we believe we need to have with our colleagues, let alone our senior leaders or our clients, to help us get to where we need to go as a team? A lot of times these 3D leaders are so results driven that they forget that we all need emotional reasons to buy into doing whatever it is we do. And that is regardless of, making a purchase as a consumer, as a company, but also an emotional level of engagement as a colleague. I have to feel like I like and trust you to be able to take a ride on your train to get to that destination that you all want us to go on. And if I don't want to step on that train, then we won't get to that destination that we're all hoping for. So that 3D leader has to find ways to engage colleagues, find ways to enroll colleagues in what a shared vision of success looks like, and also help their colleagues understand what the emotional benefit would be for them in becoming more enrolled and in becoming more engaged.
What does coaching look like on this level? Like what exactly does the process look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So no two coaching engagements look alike because no two people are alike. So when I get called in to work with 3D leaders, I spend a lot of time up front doing what I call discovery sessions. Let's talk about what the goals of the company are. Let's talk about what the goals of the president or the CEO or the company board are, maybe as it pertains to what they'd like the 3D leader to do instead, or where they'd like the 3D leader to move towards. I also do a discovery session with the 3D leader by himself or by herself. And then at that point, we have some goal alignment onto what are we actually working on? What does success look like for all of us? Such at the end of a coaching engagement after 6 months or 12 months, no one feels like the goalposts have moved. And we feel like, all right, this is our goal. How are we doing in the midpoint of our coaching time together? And at the end of the coaching engagement after 6 months, 12 months, whatever, how do we feel like we did? What does this retrospective review look like? So the stuff in the middle changes from person to person, but those discovery conversations up front are so critical to set everyone up for that desired success, not only for the company, but also for the 3D leader himself or herself.
So, Parissa, if somebody's listening to this and they want more information on 6 Sense strategy, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. Parissa Bania on LinkedIn. And also my website is sixsensestrategy.com, SIXENSE strategy.com. And reach out to me. Happy to have a call, conversation to see where and how it is that I can serve someone powerfully, and then we can take things from there. I spend a lot of time up front on these discovery and getting acquainted conversations because it just makes the coaching engagements on the other side of that much better.
Fantastic. Well, hey, Parissa, it's been awesome having you back on the show for this reunion 2020 episode. Always great stuff to hear from you and great catching up. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. Hope you had a lot of fun listening. We had fun making this for you. If you did, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, then definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave some comments in the video section. Love to know your input or your thoughts on 3D leaders or even what you're doing in your business. And Parissa, thanks again for coming back on the show.